I'm Dr. Amy French of the Delta College History Department, and I'm here surveying the Women Who Dared walking tour of cardboard cutouts of women who dared to step out of cultural confines and make history. And we're looking here at Ida Wells Barnett. Ida Wells was known, she was a writer. She dared many times to put her own body on the line through her writing. Most notably through her writing of her newspaper in Memphis, Tennessee, where she had to later leave, and then she went up north in Chicago, and she really urged the NAACP to adopt an anti-lynching campaign, and in doing so was able to foment a lot of change. She also was active in the suffrage movement, and was really an advocate for civil rights, women's rights, and many other reform movements. And then across the hall from her is Condoleezza Rice, and got the sun shining on us here. And so Condoleezza Rice grew up in the segregated South. She became the first woman and first African-American woman to serve as the provost of Stanford University, and she was appointed the National Security Advisor by President Bush and became the first black woman and the second woman to hold this post, and she became the first black woman to serve as Secretary of State. And so here is Condoleezza. And over here we have Polly Murray. And Polly Murray was known as a civil rights attorney. Some of her writings were pivotal in the Brown versus Board case. The Brown versus Board case was the case that overturned the separate but equal principle that ended segregation. And after decades of fighting for civil rights, she was recognized for that role. So she was an extremely important activist. Over here we have Catherine Switzer. Catherine Switzer, let's see if we can there we go. Catherine Switzer is best known for being the first woman to run in the Boston Marathon in 1967 under a numbered entry. She registered under her first and middle initial, and as she was running, people were trying to physically remove her from the race, but she continued to run, and she was later inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame for creating a social revolution by empowering women through running. Down the hall here we have Alice Paul. Alice Paul was a suffragist. She was known for creating the National Women's Party, which became a little bit more militant wing of suffrage. They were known for picketing the White House, and she herself was known for going on a hunger strike when she was jailed after being arrested after picketing the White House. And she was influential in then helping get the 19th Amendment passed that guaranteed women the vote. And she then went to try to get the Equal Rights Amendment passed. Of course, that was unsuccessful she tried in 1924. Across the hall is Hildegard of Bingen, or an image of Hildegard of Bingen. And Bingen was a medieval abbess, a mystic, a composer, and an author. And she became an important cultural figure whose advice was sought after by the movers and shakers of her day. And then we're gonna go down across the hall here. And we have Zika Lasagna. And Zika Lasagna was a woman, she was a Native American woman, a writer, and a person influential in many circles. She had been raised and gone to a boarding school where she, after leaving the boarding school, she became part of this movement for Native American rights, and she became very influential in legislation and exposing what was going on and the prejudices against Native Americans. And so she was very successful in that. And that legislation occurred in 1924. And then down the hall here we have Wangara Mathai, who is a Kenyan environmental activist and political activist known for the Green Belt movement. She's also a women's rights activist and the first African American woman to win a Nobel Prize in 2004 for her contributions to sustainable development. And then across the hall, we have Christine de Pizan. And Christine was an author, a poet, a political advisor, and head of a substantial household. And what's interesting about Christine, is a lot of times it's like her writings. She's writing traditional texts, but she's also writing things. She's the official biographer of Charles V. She's writing things that people are generally, that aren't things that women would be writing. And so it's an interesting person of the time. And then down here we have little Ann Hutchinson. Anne dared to step out, and in the colonial era, she was a pioneer and a preacher, and she would have people over to her house and have them pray with her, and got herself in quite a bit of trouble for that. In fact, she got herself banished from her colony for that. And then next to her is Rosie the River, the symbol that we use for women war workers of World War II. And so when the government called on women in America to fight the war, the Rosies answered the call, and they said, "We can do it," and they did. And then across the hall is Anna J. Cooper. And Anna is, she was born to an enslaved mother, but she founded the Colored Women's League of Washington in 1892. She published A Voice from the South calling for equal education, and she was the fourth African American woman to earn a PhD. I will show you a few more women, but I'm going to cut this section. I'm Dr. Amy French, and I'm at Delta College, and this is the Women Who Dared walking tour.